All right, so welcome everybody. Give you guys a round of applause for showing up today. A lot of people didn't, or a lot of people may or may not be on Zoom, so give you guys a thumbs up in the Zoom chat for showing up today. We are here with our Co-Creating a Beautiful Life series and workshop. This is number 21 with the beautiful Stacy Bernal. Stacy is not only a good friend of mine, but she's also a huge advocate in Ogden. She has a nonprofit. She is a published author of what, one or two?
Just one book.
One book so far, but I have a feeling that there's another one in the making, and it doesn't surprise me with this girl.
There will be.
And then she is also a TED Talk speaker. So for those of you who don't know how hard it is to get on those platforms and to accomplish those, I'm going to tell you, go look into it. It takes one badass woman to be able to do what she's done, and she's done a lot of major accomplishments in her short life. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the stage the beautiful, the one, the only Stacy Bernal.
Yay! Thank you, Amanda. I love you. I've loved you since the minute I met you, which it was probably at Teasers. Let's be real. Like we were probably, I'm sure there was probably some alcohol involved, and look how we've evolved over the years.
Yes.
Probably still alcohol, just less alcohol.
Less alcohol, for sure. The older we get, less alcohol.
Yes.
Definitely the key. Yes.
Well, I appreciate what you do in the community for creating this series, Co-Creating. So as I'm presenting today, and I'm saying we're because I want to invite everyone in because we are co-creating.
Yes.
I'm not going to be up here saying, here's what you do to have the most badass life, no. What are you already doing? What have you already done that is your badass life? And then, yes. And what can we be doing moving forward to build our badassery together? So I want to start with, first I want to do a land acknowledgement. Has anyone ever heard of these?
A what?
A land acknowledgement.
No.
Okay. So my friend CJ back here, and I'm going to have everyone introduce yourselves in just a minute. And for those of you on Zoom, wherever you are currently, and right now we're here in Ogden, Utah, we are on land that was occupied by the Shoshone Nation prior to us coming here. So part of my mission around diversity, equity, and inclusion is I want to acknowledge some of our history, some of our past, and that we're here today enjoying this beautiful city, and wherever you are enjoying your beautiful city, we have a very long history of people here who were here prior. So one thing I want to do is honor that as we start the day.
Woo!
And just kind of, take that minute to think about that. So yes, land acknowledgement. And feel free, like in your own journeys, to always kind of set that stage, set that tone in your events. So next, I want us to do an introduction, and I want to know what brings you here today. And is it, because Stacy's so amazing and wonderful? No. But what?
Stop it.
I know, but what? There is something. If it's that you just want to be supportive of me, that's great. But what's like deeper? What is it that you want to take away from today? What is it that? So what brings you here today? Amanda, we'll start with you.
Okay. My name's Amanda, and I would have to say what brings me here today is, I'm just going to get up. What brings me here today is I'm really passionate about our community. I'm really passionate about co-creating because I do realize that energy and motion is emotion. How is that created? It's created through the way that we make each other feel, right? So if I can come in and learn from my hardships, my trials, my tribulations, and I've come in contact with beautiful souls with other amazing stories, and I can shoot that energy and emotion out into the community and the people that I know, love, and trust, then that's my mission in life, is to help raise the vibrations and stop using our stories as a reason to settle and start using our stories together in co-creation to actually help raise the vibration and let them be your stones that project you into a more positive life and outcome.
Yes. I love it.
Okay. My name is Kesley, and I'm here today because about a year and a half ago, I started working for Mandy, and ever since then, I've gotten a really good taste of self-improvement and self-realization and all of that. And The reason I'm here today is because this is an opportunity to level up. All of these meetings are an opportunity to level up, and we're never going to stop improving because, well, you can, but you'd be stagnant. So I don't want to stop improving, so all of these meetings that we're going to are opportunities to grow.
Hello, my name is Miriam, and about a year ago, I started noticing that I was super ornery, super negative, super pissed off at the world, and I didn't know why. I was reading all the books, I was doing all these things, but I realized that it was change that I had to make, not so much within, but also align myself with the right people and the right environments. So I kind of feel like as I met Amanda, I'm getting closer to that. I'm meeting new people that I'm learning from, that I'm growing from, that I admire, aspire to be. So I am just so excited because I didn't know that this kind of came with the package, which is a plus. But I love learning from people, and I love growing and, being inspired. So that's
Hello, I'm Donna Miner. I'm here for several reasons. Of course, Mandy, I love you, and Stacy, I love you. So support is always something that I wanted to give to people that I love, for sure. But I'm just attracted to good energy, for sure. And I know that no matter what we think we can contribute, there's always something to learn from everybody. And the thing I love about this, you doing this, is I think it brings people together and it gives you the opportunity to realize that we still do have, there still are tidbits we can take and learn from each other to grow and be better. And at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's about the other people that we meet when we leave here today, right? It's the things that we learn that we share with other people. We don't just keep it right here, and that's where the co-creating, comes into play. But no, I'm just happy to be here.
My name is Juliana, and I am here because I always like to learn with books, improve. But on May, I had a big accident. I crashed, totaled my car, found my life in front of me in 5 minutes. And since then, I have been expecting just the best for me. For my life, I want a beautiful life. I want to live in peace. I'm glad that I have traveled already, but I want to travel a little bit more, and I want to grow more, because when you have something like that and you see and that nobody matters, your kids don't matter really, your family doesn't matter, only matter you and what you have accomplished in your life, that changed the whole perspective. Like, you don't let anything bother your peace, and that's what I hear.
Okay, and I want to say that I remember when you first got into real estate, and I remember seeing your growth and knowing your backstory and knowing what you've gone through, and you absolutely matter, and you've absolutely done tremendous things. And thank you for bringing your energy, because I didn't know about your accident, and I'm glad. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
She's back on the team. The same team she started with, she's back. She circled back around, it came full circle.
I love it.
Well, I'm Lori Jones, and hi, Lori. Hi. When I saw this advertisement come up, and I saw Amanda and Stacy together, and I thought, wow, that's going to be amazing. And then I saw it's co-creating. Yes. I love sharing anything that I can to help anybody, and I love getting all of that in return. So just knowing that I could attend something that was called co-creating, yes, was just right up my alley. So
Yes,
super
I love that.
Good day, I'm CJ Hernandez, and thank you for the invitation to come today. Stacy sent I noticed that she was speaking, and I know she speaks, but I've never seen her in person. And what an opportunity, what a great surprise to walk into this room and feel, the warmth, the energy, the positive femininity, but strength in here. I'm very impressed. I have two goals in life. I'm a connector, and I believe in manifestation, that the universe is a menu, and you order off of it, and you believe it comes, and it's happened again and again in my life. And I feel like I'm at a point where I'm now here to connect and show people how to do that, and also learn so much from this rebirth of an Ogden community. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, I love that. Should we jump up here then back there? All right, baby.
Okay, so I'm guessing I'm saying why I'm here.
Yes. Who are you and why are you
Okay,
here?
I'm Angel Elliott. I've been wanting to come to one of these for quite some time, and I've looked at the topic a couple of times and missed one I want to see. And then when I saw it was you, I met you briefly one time, and I kind of had a glimpse of what, like, you've written a book, and I know that you have some past trauma and stuff. And so that connects with me where I'm like, okay, someone who can now become, you know, who you are now and overcome your past. Like, I want to learn from someone like that.
Yes.
And we're all here to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And I love that because I know we've all gone through our stuff. So yay, I'm glad you're here. And Paige?
I'm gonna stand up for them.
Yes, please do.
I'm Paige, and I'm just here just because this is such a contagious energy. Like, just being here, you take so much value away from it, and just surrounding yourself with the people that you want to be like, and kind of mixing those energies. Like, you can always take something so valuable from that. And I'm just so grateful for Amanda and my team, and it's just always so fun to meet new people and hear fabulous speakers like yourself. And I just always feel like I take so much away from all these talks. So thank you for being here and letting us be a part of it.
And who's the
And it's her birthday, so on the count of 3, let's all yell, "Happy birthday, Paige!" 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Paige! All right, Jenna.
What am I doing?
You're sharing. You're sharing. Who are you and why are you coming?
I'm Jenna Flowers, or Captain Living. I'm here because I brought food and to listen to the wonderful speakers such as Miss Stacy Bernal. That's it. I just like being around y'all.
I will definitely say that I would not be here today were it not for my own experiences in showing up in circles like this and connecting with people like each and every one of you. So yeah, it's all energy, and it's all the experiences and the stories that build us up and create us. So this is part of my journey. And how is it going to be affecting me? I mean, we're creating ripple effects. We're constantly creating ripple effects everywhere we go. So I want to talk about things. There's a few different kind of topics, and hopefully I will eloquently present them and we can talk around them. But this quote has been kind of on my mind a lot. I won this at a fundraiser a few years ago, and I was with my daughter at the time. She's now 25, so she was probably 22 or 23 at the time that I won this. So the quote says, "Today I wore your words on my feet because I like how tall they make me feel." Okay? Today I wore your words on my feet because I like how tall they make me feel. Now, I'm curious to hear how that resonates with you and your interpretation of that quote. What does that mean? How does that make you feel?
I'd have to say, to me, it sounds like it's actually a positive. It sounds like, the compliments and the acclimates made me stand tall and made me feel like a big, important person, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm worth being seen.
Yeah. Does everyone else agree with that?
Yeah. I also thought I am so quick to take the negative and the judgments and whatever it is that people might throw out there. And I do wear those. I wear those as insecurities. So this just kind of hit me like, you know what? I don't have to take that, but I can take the good ones and stand upon them and make me feel more powerful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I think it's a reminder for us to be aware of how we talk to people.
That is perfect.
Because words are powerful.
Absolutely.
Words are
very
everything.
powerful.
So I think it's just a great thing to remember. Like, how cool is it to have the opportunity to tell somebody how beautiful
you
they
can
are,
help
what they
lift
look like, and
somebody
help
up.
them stand tall.
Yeah.
So that was my interpretation. When I got that, I'm like, yeah, because you surround yourself with those people who help elevate you. They lift you up. And I was having this conversation with my daughter, and she said, I like it because it's how people have said hurtful things at me, the things they've said that have brought me down, but how I use them to step up. And I thought, so I have to tell you, my daughter struggles with depression. She is clinically depressed. And so to hear that perspective, I thought, that's so powerful. We can look at the same exact thing, read it differently, think about it differently, feel it differently, but it can still kind of have that same end result, right? We can still, no matter how you look at it, we can still use that for good. Yeah, my
I love that because it's kind of like what I tell my team all the time. They're like, I don't know how you go through so much shit and you still come with a smile and you still are doing this and whatever. And it's like, because I've learned how to master and manifest negatives into positives, right? And so what I've switched my verbiage from, which is kind of victim mindset, right? When we want to feel like a victim and like in our stories where we're like, oh, they're such a bitch and they did this and that, whatever. Like I've learned how to step back and see the opportunities to grow in those moments. Like what did they give me as a blessing in this rather than I'm the victim, they're the villain. It's where's the opportunity to grow and where is the blessing in this and how do I turn negatives into positives and how do I let this make me better, right? Help me to be better. And a way that I practice that is in positively blaming people. I'm going to positively blame my mom for not having her shit together and watching me see exactly what I will never fucking tolerate in my own life, right? Yes. So that's the same thing. It's such a beautiful thing because you can look at anything as a positive and a negative. It's Newton's law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite. What are you going to focus on? Whatever you focus on is going to be what expands into your life. Beautiful.
I saw it both ways. I saw it the first way, very positive, like, all the validation you get, and you step on that when you're feeling low, you're like, but I've heard this and I've had this feedback, but absolutely the other side, one of the best motivators in my life is when somebody says, you can't do that, or don't you dare, or how dare you, and I'm like, move aside and watch me do it. Now it's a challenge, and sometimes we need that too, and yes. Seeing that as a blessing or a motivation, I think that's the best way to look at it. Yeah. That it's not real, it's just a challenge.
Yeah.
To me, it's a little bit hard to let go and to relate in other people. Sometimes I, especially if it is their words coming toward me, and having to, okay, I will allow you to bless me or to unbless me with your words. And so I'm very careful, but when I was reading this, then I started thinking, okay, if we want the universe to give us blessing, we need to accept the present, the good words. We need to see, if somebody say, you look beautiful today, oh, thank you. Yeah, I look beautiful today, If somebody say, you did a good job, I love your smile, or I love something, accept those good words because those are the ones who are going to raise you coming from another people. And it's good to have these things and welcome those good things because when you welcome the good, more stuff comes to you, toward you.
And then I find that the more that I get that, the more I can give it back out, right? That flows into me, helps lift me up, and then I can push that back out, and that's doing something for someone else, lifting them up, and it's about creating that energy, that positive flow, and not being toxically positive, right? Like when we're down, we can be fucking down. Like it's okay to be down and accept that and have those days where like, I don't want to get out of bed today. I got this shitty email, I got this bad review, whatever that's going to be. All right, today's the day I'm just gonna Netflix by myself in bed. And that's okay because tomorrow I'm gonna get back up, get in the arena, and get back to badassery. But we can have our down times, right? So my book cover is those words, some of those words. And I'll pass it around if anyone wants to take a look. How do we use the bad words, the negativity, even the thoughts we've had about ourselves from our past experiences, from things that might have happened? And that for me was pivotal. That's a huge part of my journey. That's why my business is called See Stacy Speak. It's why my book is called The Things We Don't Talk About. It's why my TEDx was called Confessions of a Recovering Nobody. Do you feel a theme with those titles? Because I was riddled with shame for so much of my life, for things that had happened to me, for things that I had done, that I was told, you should be ashamed of yourself. And either explicitly told don't talk about it, or implicitly told don't talk about it. And until I had the courage to start taking these negative things that I thought about myself, that I had been told, that people had said about me, and then I got very vocal about them. So vocal because I covered my body in it and put it on a book cover. And there's a local bookstore on 25th Street. I tried to get them to carry my book. And I brought her a copy at the owner, and she read it, and then she replied back to me and said, I'm not going to carry your book. Because just based on the cover, she said, I wouldn't want my 16-year-old daughter to see that. That's her prerogative. That's her absolute right. But it was, you know, her way of keeping her world nice and tidy for her family and what works for her. And I'm like, that's all right, I can appreciate that, because I'm probably not for everyone. That's safe to say. I'm definitely not for everyone. But that's, for me and my journey, that's how it worked. And particularly when I talked about my past with childhood sexual abuse, and then later on, you know, having a child that I placed for adoption. And those were things that people didn't want to hear about. And a lot of it had to do with the religion that I was raised in, very patriarchal, told by leaders, don't talk about it. Protect the abuser, who in my case, it was my father. Protect the abuser. You should be ashamed. Somehow, and as a young girl, this made me feel like this was my fault. I must have done something wrong. I internalized all this. So as you can imagine, that created a really, I mean, that was trauma, which I did not realize until many years later when I was looking back and doing some therapy, and to be able to look back on it as trauma and see the way my path had gone through life based on that trauma. And then it made me really, really mad. That anger of, if I had known as a teenager and been able to recognize it and been able to address it as what it was, that would have saved me from years of heartache, heartbreaks. But I also needed all that shit to happen for my life to happen the way it did. So the first time I publicly shared my abuse story was in 2018, and I had volunteered for the Weber Morgan Children's Justice Center. Is anyone familiar with that organization? They're in this beautiful old mansion on the corner of 24th and just below Harrison. So you'll see it, you'll drive by, it's this beautiful facility. And they serve children in the community who have gone through abuse, you know, any sort of abuse where the situation involves like CPS and police. So the children can come into this facility, they can interview with, you know, the facilitator, and the interview is recorded. So that way it can be used in all future legal proceedings, so that the kid doesn't have to go through, you know, over and over and over telling the story. So I was involved with the Weber CJC because that was a topic near and dear to my heart. Every year they do a fundraiser, and in May of 2018, I was like, I would love to come and be your speaker this year. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying. It was the first time that I'm like, not only am I sharing it, but I'm sharing it on a stage in this huge venue with hundreds of people. But we're all here because we know this is what we're raising money for, is how can we protect these children? How can we service and help these kids? So I got up that night, shared my story, shared my healing process, shared, you know, ways we prevent this, how we need to stop saying stranger danger. We know that 90% of abuse is perpetrated by people that we know. These kids know. It's their family members, it's their neighbors, they know these people. So I'm like, we gotta do away with that. We gotta take the stigma away from talking about it. Why don't we talk about it as survivors? And statistically speaking, we have other survivors in the room right now. Like, statistically speaking, that's an unfortunate matter of fact. So again, I'm terrified, I'm shaking. I remember that, you know, like just shaking like a leaf being up in front of these people, and they're influential politicians and all the people in the community, and I'm up here saying, yeah, here's this very vulnerable thing about me. I left that event that night, and I didn't really think anything of it. You know, I'm going about my life, I'm doing my thing, and over the course of the last few years, I've been doing a lot of other things. I wrote my book, I created my nonprofit, I did TEDx. So fast forward to just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, for this year's fundraiser for the Weber Morgan CJC. This year, the speaker was a man. And he got up, and he's sharing his story. And if you think it's hard for a woman to disclose, to share that kind of experience, you can imagine for a man how hard that is to disclose that same experience, right? So he gets up and he's sharing his story, And he starts to say, 3 years ago, I was at this event. And the woman speaking that night, and I'm like, what? What is going on here? And my husband is like, I start like tapping his shoulder. I'm like, and he said, 3 years ago, the woman that spoke changed my life. And at this point, I'm like, he's talking about, and he goes, and her name is Stacy Bernal. And like, I was not expecting that he was going to say my name, and he did not know I was there, and I wasn't supposed to be there. I had gotten the invitation, but I had forgotten about it until the previous Thursday. My friend invited me and said, I've got an extra ticket, do you and Dusty want to come? And so we just barely even made it so that we're sitting at that event, at that table, and this man, a stranger, is on stage saying, 3 years ago, this woman changed my life. And then he said my name, and then a bunch of the people were like, Stacy, that's you. I'm like, I know, that's me. And he does this powerful presentation, and everyone's crying. Like, it was, as you can imagine. And he talked about how long it takes for people to disclose, and that the average for women is 16 years, and men is 26 years before they disclose. That's a long time for that trauma to wreak havoc on our bodies. And he got off stage after he was finished, and of course I jump up and I run over and I hug him and I'm like, it's me, I'm Stacy. And he's like, oh. And so anyway, my husband snapped a picture and it was this huge, but I left that night and I thought, you never know whose life you're impacting and when. You never know. And that man, so what happened was when I spoke in 2018, something I said triggered him. And I have been told before I trigger people. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I feel like there is this part of me, like I feel bad. I don't want to trigger people. But if we're being triggered, what is it there that we need to look at? What is it? Because that means there's obviously something either subconscious or conscious that we need to work on. So he left that event and said, it had triggered him. And they're driving home and he says to his wife, I need to tell you something. And she says, I need to tell you something too. So they actually both disclosed to each other that night. And I don't know at that point how long they had been married, but he's like, we both found out. And so he's been working, that was 3 years ago that he's been working through his journey and his process, and then he was able to get up on that stage and have that moment. And I thought it's all worth it. Yes. That moment made it worth it. So we are connected through story. We are connected through our experiences. And those thoughts and those ideas and those things that maybe we've been told that say, you're not good enough, you need to keep quiet, you need to stay small, shut those up and get those out, get them out of there. But so I've been pretty open for at least 3 years, and I have people reach out to me either through email or social media. Every time, either if I make a post or if I speak about it in public or however that works out, people will reach out to me and they will tell me, me too. Me too. And a lot of the times they say, I've never told anyone else that. I have one woman who's actually messaged me multiple times, and she has said, I am too scared to disclose because I don't think anyone will believe me. And I said, I will believe you. I do believe you. And I think that more people will believe you than you think, but we hold on to that fear so tightly and so closely. And what will people think of me? And I know how powerful it is to let it go. And there's this idea, we don't want to make other people uncomfortable. We don't want to trigger people. We don't want to, it can't be about how it's gonna, you need to unload that burden. Why are you carrying that weight? You don't have to do that. So that for me, the thoughts, the ideas, how can I use my bad experiences for good? And we all have that power. I don't know what your pasts are, what your experiences are, and I'm guessing most of us haven't had rainbows and unicorns 100% of our lives. But are we in a place where we feel safe, that we can share our experiences and know that they're gonna help other people? And I think that's part of your process is be selfish with that. I talk to people about altruism. So do you guys know, like, what's altruism? Giving without receiving, right? Like, but I had this conversation, I had it in college and I have it with people all the time, my husband and I especially. We want to do good. We want to be good people. We want to do good things in the community, but there's always a reward, right? There's always, I feel really good when I help this group of people. I feel really good about being able to donate here or serve here or volunteer here. So how can I truly be altruistic? Because I am receiving something in return. I'm getting those warm, fuzzy feelings. So does that make me selfish? Because like I do these good things because I want to feel good. So it's like altruism is hard because how can you ever truly give without getting something back? But we can be selfish, be okay with that. Be okay with, I've got the power to use a story, to connect to someone else, to humanize. And I think especially in this last year and a half, does anyone else feel like sometimes there's some dehumanization, there's this like othering, there's enemy lines, there's this type of person, that type of person, and if you're in this group, then we're disconnected. And we have gone through, and I feel like we're continuing to move forward in this collective global trauma, right? And we think, like we know it's here in our community, we know it's in our country, but I promise you, it is global. It's everywhere. So, connecting and getting back to,
I've always said in giving, I receive. So I'm like, you know what? It is the most selfless, selfish fucking thing I do is to go out and like serve my community. Because I get so much out of watching other people rise to the occasion and contributing where they normally wouldn't have. And also the receivers and the smiles on their face, like literally that's like gold to me. So I totally love that because it's true. It's hard to say that you don't get something out of giving. Everybody does. I think it would be hard not to, right?
It's the law of circulation.
Yes.
They say when you donate, you receive also some financial benefit or something's coming to you. It's like karma, right? And you can't stop it, and there's nothing wrong with it. But realize the more good you put out, the more you get back, and that's okay because you're in the circle. You're in part of the circulation. But when you stop and you shut the door, that's when you stop and you start breaking down and getting desperate and lonely and the darkness comes, right? But that's why community is so important, and it's okay.
I love that. And I also feel it's like, what is your intention, right? Because it's like, are you really doing that to serve? Or are you doing that because that looks good to serve? Like, you know, where is that place coming from within you? Is it genuine? Because I can always feel real. I don't know about you guys, but I can feel that like what you're doing today is a real presentation from real experiences, and therefore I think it's gonna really hit our hearts, right? So I love that.
yeah. That's my hope. And I want you to realize too, like, so I talk about getting up on stage and talking, it doesn't have to be on that huge grand scale, right? Mm-hmm. We have the capacity to make these very impactful, just in our own circles, in our families. I'm not saying we all have to run out and air out all our dirty laundry, but whatever works for you, to know that you're impacting someone else and you're helping to be part of that positive change. So, has anyone heard of kintsugi?
No.
Kintsugi. I'm like being very careful with this.
Is it where they break it and put it back together
Yes.
and it's even prettier?
Yes.
Yes.
So kintsugi is a Japanese art form, and it is the idea that when something breaks, we don't need to throw it away. There can still be use and beauty and life in that item. But rather than trying to disguise the cracks, the breaks when we repair it, they use this gold epoxy. And so it's even more beautiful than it was before. So part of my healing journey, particularly with my abuse, was I went to a retreat. It's actually here in Utah. It's called the Haven Retreat. And if anyone needs that information, I'm happy to pass it along. But the Unique Foundation, so this, MLM based in Utah County that does cosmetics, they sponsor these retreats. And they're free to the attendees. Women apply and then get selected to come for a 4-day retreat. They do them 3 weeks out of every month. Again, they're free to the women, but women come from all over the world. They have to pay for their transportation to get here, but then once they're there, they're at this retreat. So I heard about it from another survivor. She had posted about it on Facebook, and I thought, that looks interesting. So I applied in 2017, in November of 2017, and the wait list was so long that I couldn't go until March of 2018. And I was nervous, I was so scared, because at that point, I hadn't told my husband I was applying. I didn't, I've got kids at home. I'm like, oh, if I get accepted, then I'm gonna have to leave the kids for 4 days. They're fine, they'll survive, they're okay. But even having the conversation with my husband, because I had been with him for a while at this point, like 9 years at this point, but we had never really talked about my past. And he knew I had abuse in my past, and he knew that my dad's not in my life, we don't have a relationship, but he didn't really know like the details. And I said, I want to go to this retreat, and he's like, okay, like, do you want to talk about it? I'm like, nope, like, I don't want to talk about it, I just want to go. So I get to this retreat, and all of the women there, it's like, if you can imagine women from all over, all ages, all demographics, all different backgrounds, and we all know that we are there for the one common thread of we are all abuse survivors. And we're put in this house, we do some therapy, we do some group therapy, and one of the activities we did was kintsugi. And we each chose our own bowl. You break it, and then you glue it back together with gold epoxy. And as I was putting mine together, I don't know if you can see, but there was a little spot, there was a little piece that, as I was putting it back together, I'm like, do I want to put that little tiny last piece in, or do I want to keep it open? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to leave that piece out. I think that needs to be, it doesn't go back into it, but this is still my very beautiful kintsugi bowl. And it's so healing, and I wish that we could have done something like this today. And while we can't, if there's ever an opportunity, if you see that someone is doing some type of workshop, or if you even want to go and Google how to do it, you can order the stuff and do it at home. We went to Mexico a few years ago and we bought this tile. There's like artists all along the beach, and this guy drew this really pretty scene on a tile. And we brought it home and had it on our mantle, and one day it just randomly fell off the mantle. And I ordered some of the gold epoxy, and I put it back together and put it back up on the mantle, because it wasn't, just because it's broken doesn't mean it's useless. It still served a purpose. So again, how we can use our broken parts and make them more beautiful, right? And not feeling like we have to hide them. So the last thing I want to do with y'all is invite you, if you are so inclined, to write, this is called letter to myself. So just kind of, what is it that you're either working on now? What do you want to be working on? Where are you at in your life that you're like, I just want to remember this moment? But you're going to write this letter to yourself. You're going to address it to yourself. You're going to seal it in this envelope with your name, your address. I will never see what is on here. This is for you. But I am going to take it, and then at some point in time in the future, when, who knows, you will not be expecting it, because you're going to leave today and you're going to go back to your lives and you're going to completely forget that we were even here, except for you're not, because it's totally going to change your lives. But you're going to get this in the mail one day, and you're going to be like, oh my God. So this is to your future self. Yes. Yes.
Mine's in the window right there, and
yeah,
it's so amazing. It's so awesome. Like,
so that is what I want to do for you. And I want to open an invitation for anyone who wants to share anything or ask anything, or not, if you want to put it on your note to yourself. But I am grateful to all of you for being a part of my story. Yes. And for letting me be a part of your stories.
I just want to share too. I love this, especially just because I feel like we live in a world that's like our perception is that we just have to live these perfect lives and be perfect, and you know, we can't be flawed. We just have to, you know, let everybody know that we have these perfect lives. And I just think these speeches are so cool because it normalizes like having those vulnerabilities. It like makes it beautiful that we can be flawed, and even though like life is not always beautiful and perfect and, you know, as it should be, like it's still such a beautiful thing to learn from and share. And I mean, we can connect on such a huge level by being vulnerable and having weaknesses and being human. So I just wanted to tell you thank you.
And thank you for saying that. So I did want to share another story and I forgot, and thank you for triggering that thought for me. I spoke at an event at Weber State a couple years ago, and it was my biggest audience at that point. It was like 600 people, I think, in that audience. And my perception was it went really well. I was the morning keynote speaker. I got to get up. I got to talk about my experience at Weber State being a non-traditional grad, raising a neurodiverse disabled child, and how I got through school through all these challenges, right? The audience was university professionals from all the universities in Utah, with a lot of them from Weber State, and the event was at Weber State. So a lot of them could resonate with me because I was a Weber State grad. But apparently, a lot of them did not resonate with me because I was a Weber State grad, and they were BYU, U of U, so they were, you know, all the different universities. But I did the opening keynote. I was like feeling really good about myself. I immediately had to do a breakout session, and I go into my breakout room, and people were filling it up so much they had to bring extra chairs in. So again, like I'm stepping up on those words of affirmation and everything's good, and I leave. And about 2 weeks later, I get an email from the organizer, and she said, hey, I wanted you to have the feedback from the event. And let me tell you what, if I had stopped doing what I love because of my negative feedback, I would not be here today, because those people ripped me to shreds. And a few months ago, Weber State had me speak virtually for another, like for Women's History Month, and I said, as part of my presentation, I wanted to read some of those comments, like how celebrities read mean tweets, right? And I was seriously like, I was gonna play like Everybody Hurts, and they were like, we can't do that for copyright reasons because this is being recorded. And I was like, damn it, I really want that song to be playing. And so I said, I want you to imagine that Everybody Hurts is playing in the background, and I'm reading these comments that people said. And they were things like, this is the worst keynote I've ever attended. Stacy's a nice gal, but she's not keynote material. Stacy seems very unsure of herself. These were like, boom, like gut punch, right? I was like, oh, whoa, like seriously, I thought I was gonna throw up when I read these. And I'm like, I thought it had gone tremendously. I thought it was fantastic. My breakout session was overflowing, but enough people in the room did not like me, and they let me know. And that was right, I internalized all that, and I seriously was like, okay, I am just never, ever going to speak again. I should not, people hate me. I should not be up on a stage. But you know what? I use those words. I use those words to step on. But knowing that, I mean, I go into presentations every single time, and that's in the back of my mind, is those words, like who's not gonna resonate with me? And especially when I do diversity training, because there are a lot of things that people don't resonate with. And so, but I'm gonna keep doing it. Like that's my passion, that's my purpose. I have a child whose life quite literally depends on it, on me helping to make the world a better, more inclusive, safe place for him. So I get out there, I get so uncomfortable. Yes, my friend.
It's so funny when you're going against cultural and social norms, you're labeled misbehaving. There's this t-shirt from Sturgis that a friend got for me, and it says, well-behaved women seldom make history. And you know that you're doing something right when you hit adversity. And always remember that. When you're feeling low or things seem overwhelming, it's because you're about ready to grow. It's like working out. Your muscles are sore, you're tired, but guess what? You're gonna get trim and tone the next week, right? So that's a signal to me that's like, okay, I'm hitting the right tone.
Yep. Yeah, so like, don't let those haters, don't let them hold you down. Use those words to step up on. Because usually that's how I see it. They're good, I'm gonna hop up on all the good stuff, but there's gonna be plenty of bad too. Plenty of bad. And like all the time, I mean, I had 2 really nice emails this morning because I did a presentation yesterday for the tech college. And I'm like, oh, that was really nice. But I mean, 2 weeks ago, I had like a really nasty email, like, because I actually did a similar presentation to this, and because some of the people cried, some of the women in the group cried, and she was like, you did not empower them. You made them cry. And I was like, bitch, empowered women cry. Like, it's okay. But you know what? But her perception of me was her reality. And she felt like I didn't deliver, and I was like, all right, that's fine. That's on you. That's on you, because I'm not gonna be ashamed that, and half of the women in her group actually reached out to me and they were like, we loved you. I'm like, tell your upline that. So anyway, I'll quit talking so you can fill out your love letters to yourself. Did you get one? Did you get a love letter? Oh, and my nonprofit, my family's nonprofit is called the Bernal Badassery Foundation. And we started because a couple years ago, we helped a Weber State student get a car. And this was just through this kind of series of events that I met this lovely, and some of you might remember because I had it on Facebook. And because y'all are so awesome, my circle of friends is so awesome that without question, y'all helped me raise like $3,000. And that was awesome, but also terrifying because it was like November. And I'm like, people are gonna think I'm going Christmas shopping with all the money they sent me. So I wanna be very transparent about where this money is going. So the next year, as we were doing Awesome Autistic Ogden, people were coming into our event, which was a free event. I had a sponsor, so it was a free event to the community, but we had all these raffle prizes that people had donated. So we were giving everyone one raffle ticket, but of course people love raffles. So they're like, can we buy more? And I was like, I guess. But we had nothing set up to accept money. And you were at that event, Donna. And we ended up raising almost $200. And the same thing, like it was going to my Venmo, it was going to Stacy Bernal, and I was like, shit, like I want there to be transparency about any money that we ever take. So we created this nonprofit, and that like specifically now is we help neurodiverse, disabled, and other marginalized people who are trying to improve their lives and they need a helping hand along the way. So they are badassery in progress, because we're all badassery in progress. And like one of the groups, especially right now in our current climate in this state, is our LGBTQ+ youth. I cannot stress enough how like my heart goes out to anyone who identifies that way. And what I think a lot of people don't know is that often they are double intersectional because they are also neurodiverse. A lot of them are also on the autism spectrum, and I learned that, and I thought, I can absolutely see that. In fact, I went to Pride this year, and I said, I felt like I saw neurodiversity even more than I saw LGBTQ identity. And there is science about the way brains are wired. And so anyway, we love people who are other, people who are different, because I have grown up as an other, my son is growing up as an other. We have struggles and challenges that, you know, if you're in the in group, there's things that you will never ever know that happen to the people in the out group. So this is what a badass looks like. And every single one of you is a badass.
Oh, thanks.
You are very welcome. And I love every single one of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that this time together was well spent and valuable, and you are all beautiful, wonderful, amazing humans, and I'm glad to know you all.
Ditto.